Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Tuesday, October the 5th. This is episode number 119. I'm your host, Rod Bloom. Joining me today is my brother, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, how are things going?
Hey, Rod. Well, as you know, it's a kind of a crazy week.
Yeah.
We have a wedding coming up on Saturday and lots going on, but this is a nice little break, nice getaway to talk about some Browns.
Yeah, I appreciate you finding the time to still squeeze the podcast in. So I know you got a lot of stuff going on. So seeing the pictures, I know what's going on in your yard and everything. So
right.
So yeah. So all right. Well, joining us tonight, first appearance on the podcast is Dan Gorman. You can find Dan on Twitter at GDanArtist, and Dan is a comic artist, a cartoonist. He is also a podcast pioneer, which we'll get into briefly, and he's also a birthday boy. Dan, it's your birthday today.
It is. Today is my birthday. Yeah, for 46 years. Yep.
Nice. Well, happy birthday.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
I wasn't expecting that. I was looking at your at your profile, writing your Twitter handle down and stuff, and I saw the balloons pop up, and I thought, well,
yeah,
I guess you said you were open tonight, so hopefully the celebration's tomorrow when you said you were not available.
Well, actually, it was yesterday. My wife works the rest of the week, so we celebrated yesterday.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Yep.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the podcast you did, because you say you did a podcast a while back, and I started doing podcasts. I don't even know. It's been 4 or 5 years now, and I honestly kind of felt a little bit like a pioneer back then, because there weren't that many Browns podcasts, and now there are a bunch of them. But you were doing one. When did you say early 2000s?
Yeah, right around 2004, 2005. It's right around then. It was called Booyah Radio, and we talked about Cleveland sports, primarily the Browns. My co-host Bill Bronlick and myself, and Bill and I were had gone to high school together, and we were both diehard Cleveland sports fans. And we thought, hey, let's try this. And podcasts were kind of in their infancy, I think, right?
Yeah.
In that period, and we were on iTunes and everything, and it was a thing. We had some. At the time, we had some Cleveland Browns scouts that would email us information, and we knew about Braylon Edwards when he was returning before anybody else did, but we weren't allowed to say anything. So we even got press passes at the World Series of Golf when it was still at Firestone Country Club. We were in the media room with it was like CBS Radio, Booyah Radio, and we were like, why are we here?
Right. What's a podcast? We don't.
Right.
People didn't even know what it was.
I'm guessing you had a MySpace page back then that you used to promote this, right?
No, we had our own website. It was booyahradio.com. I had built our own website, and we promoted through iTunes and on our own website, and it was a whole thing.
Now, do you still have the AOL email address that was linked to that?
No, I do not. I do not have that, and I do believe it probably was AOL. Yeah, you're probably right.
Man, if you would have just kept that going, I mean, you guys maybe could have even bought MySpace at some point in time.
Like at the time, we were like there were only that I knew of only about 3 podcasts that actually talked Browns, and one of them was actually from Georgia, and they used to send us. We would share information, and they would listen to us. We'd listen to them, and it was a whole thing.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's good stuff. So that tells us a little bit about the podcast. Since this is your first time here, we always have first timers on the podcast talk about their Browns journey and just how you became a Browns fan, and then anything unique or anything that you want to talk about. So I'm gonna give you the floor back, and I'll let you talk about that for a few minutes.
Sure. So I was born and raised into Cleveland sports. It was really my mom who was the diehard Cleveland sports fan in the family. Although my dad was a Browns fan, but she loved all three teams: the Cavs, the Browns, and the Indians. And I was born into it. I was a little too young during the Sipe era. I was kind of forced to watch Browns football at that point. But I chose to be a Browns fan in 1985 when Kozar's rookie year. My mom was very excited about it, and I thought this was a great opportunity for me to. This was my quarterback. Sipe was kind of my dad's quarterback, but this was my quarterback, and so I kind of fell in love with the Browns, in '85, and it's just been diehard Browns worship ever since, and I've suffered through everything that everybody else did. We cried, when the team left in 95, and I've, swore off football for a couple of years, while we didn't have a team. And then, and then just got back, picked up right back where we left off. And the Browns, we used to have Browns parties at my parents' house, and those picked right back up. And, now I kind of have my own ritual on Sunday. I make a breakfast on Sunday, which I call my Browns breakfast, and my dogs love it. And it's all about the Browns here at my house, and we just love the team. I've always loved the team.
That's great. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, that's why you started your podcast way back when. That's why we do this podcast, and people just love talking Browns and following the team. So
yeah. So and as an artist, I'm actually licensed. I'm licensed to work on Major League Baseball for Topps, and I do some artwork for their trading card sets. But I did work for Leaf for a while, and I got to work on the NFL license at Leaf. And I did get to draw, some Browns players. Whenever they let me, go off script and pick my own players, I would always pick, Jim Brown or Joe DeLamielleure, or somebody that was in their archive of available players to draw. And I drew as many Browns players as I possibly could for Leaf a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Seeing that on your Twitter page. Yeah, I'm a pretty big sports card collector. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool that you do that. So
cool.
So yeah, that's cool stuff.
That might be the understatement of the evening, Rod.
I'm pretty well. Yeah,
you're a pretty big sports collector. Yeah.
I've got kind of a room full of cards. So yeah, pretty much full. Yeah. So, anyways, that's a whole nother topic that we could talk about I could talk about for a long time. But anyways, sure. let's move on to some Browns football. Browns sure. Played the Vikings in the first game of what I talked about last week is this 3-game stretch: Vikings, Chargers, Cardinals. Kevin Stefanski's taking this one game at a time, but we talked a little bit about this being a tough 3-game stretch against these 3 teams that look pretty darn good, and Browns came out with a win. So they're 3-1. I think the game went a little bit differently from what most people expected, score-wise. With it only being 14-7, and just how much of a defensive game it was.
Right.
But the Browns got a win. So I'm going to go to each of you guys just for some general takeaways. First of all, in the game, and Jeff, you've been kind of quiet anyway, so rightfully so. I'm going to let you go first on this. Just some general takeaways from the game on Sunday.
It was sort of crazy the way the game started, with 2 really, really long sustained drives, and I think I texted you that this was looking like a 4-possession game at the end of the first quarter. The Browns to go for it on 4th down and not come away with any points was a little bit scary at that point, thinking, geez, we may not have many scoring opportunities in this game. And then they got into the second quarter, and it was just really strange how things changed. There were 4, possessions in the second quarter that were like under like 2 minutes or less, between the Browns and the Vikings. So it was almost like two different games in the first and second quarter, which I thought was really, really odd. But the Browns defense, I think, proved that the game against Chicago was no fluke, and that it had less to do with how poorly Chicago played than how dominant the Browns defense can be. For them to shut down the number 3 offense in the league after that initial drive was really impressive. Thank goodness that we had a great showing again by our defense, because our offense was putrid. We managed to score 14 points, but it was awful. And it was really hard to watch our offense in this game.
It was, yeah.
But we came away with a win, and that's really all that matters. And you hope that that's sort of a one-off thing that we're not gonna see again going forward from the offense. It's been a lot of talk about Baker this week. I just think he had one of those weird games. We see him have bad quarters, we see him have bad halves. It was just one of those weird games for him, and we can talk about why, but the bottom line is there's every bit as good a chance that he's going to come out and play great next week as there is that he's going to repeat that type of a performance at any point in the season. So you just you move onward and upward and take the win, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. Dan, what would you like to add, or what were some takeaways you have from the game?
Well, I think my observation was this was by far Baker's probably worst game as a Cleveland Brown that I remember watching. But social media and everyone is reacting as if they have never gone to their job and had a bad day. and who else had a bad day on Sunday? Tom Brady didn't have a great game either. And who else didn't have a great? Aaron Rodgers didn't have a great game either. All right, but all 3 of those quarterbacks won their game, and we're acting like we haven't watched 25 years of god awful, horrific quarterback play. All right, and now we have Baker, who at the very least on Sunday may not have been on. He missed several throws. We probably should have won 28-7, but he didn't throw any interceptions, and he didn't turn the ball over. He didn't lose us the game. So instead of talking about what we should be talking about, which is an incredible defensive effort for 2 weeks in a row, the fact that our running game controlled much of the offensive production that we did actually have. Instead, we're talking about Baker Mayfield as if he is the end-all, be-all of Cleveland Browns football. And it's a team game, and you win as a team and you lose as a team. And you can't put it all on one guy. And the only reservation I have about this week coming up against the Chargers, and I'm not going to say that Baker's going to have a bad game, but his opportunities to prove himself in this game may be limited because the Chargers have the 29th ranked run defense in the league. So my guess is the game plan is going to be run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. So as long as Baker doesn't throw doesn't turn the ball over, I think the Browns are going to be just fine. And
you know what? That's fine with me. I don't think Baker's going to care either. If what his numbers are, if the Browns walk away with a win, next week. So,
exactly.
I mean, I'm going to go back to that. Back to the beginning of the game and just how odd that the beginning was with the Browns going for it on 4th down, in that first drive, not making it, and not only not making it, but taking a sack because they took sacks on 4th down and how many times in that Bears game? Twice, or was it more than that, Jeff? Do you guys remember?
Too many. I don't remember what the number was, but yeah.
Because I'm looking at this, I'm like, what is it with 4th down and taking sacks? I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to at least make an effort at it. It's a 4th and a short distance. You have to be getting the ball and tossing it to somebody really quick. You shouldn't be back there looking for somebody on a fourth and I don't even know what the distance was on that first fourth down, but it wasn't very long, I don't believe.
I think it was 4th and 4.
Yeah, yeah. So man, you should have somebody going out on a slant or something to where it's
Right.
where it's hike and get rid of the ball. I mean, to take a sack on a fourth down passing play, 3 plays in a row like that. I'm just thinking, how is this happening?
Well, the one thing that Baker wasn't doing for the 2 weeks up until about the third or the fourth drive of the Vikings game was he wasn't stepping up into the pocket. If you watch what he was doing, he kept retreating, and he would retreat right into the pressure.
Yeah.
He wasn't stepping into the pocket. And after about the third or fourth drive, he started stepping into the pocket. And I'm hoping that continues.
And yeah, that's something we've seen in the past, I think, where he tends to bail early. And I think it's just confidence in his protection, where, in the past, we've seen him roll out in those situations just too early, not trust his protection, not give, the play time to develop. I don't know, if it's part of the injury that he's dealing with, if it's, the Wills issue that, he's not 100% at the left tackle. Conklin's struggling a little bit on the right side as well. Yeah. I just don't think they've really gotten that effort together to feel comfortable in the pocket at times. And any quarterback that gets put under that kind of pressure is going to get a little bit of happy feet, and then you start seeing those balls get launched, which he's been doing for a couple of weeks now. Just overthrowing guys. I mean, he missed Odell again this week on one that should have been a touchdown, just because he wasn't settled in. And, that's what teams look to do. That's what defenses look to do. Disrupt the pocket, force a guy to make a quick decision, throw off balance. Baker's just not the kind of quarterback that's going to, excel in those kind of situations on a regular basis. He will sometimes, but he's not Patrick Mahomes. So
there's only one Patrick Mahomes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You got to give him time. He's got to feel comfortable with the play, with the protection. And he's got to have the time to execute. And I just don't think that's been there, the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. And, I'm going to go to what I was leading to that fourth down was the second fourth down, which is near the end of the half. There's like 2 minutes left or so. Not right around there. 2 minutes left in that area, and the Browns are there, and they're getting ready to go for it on fourth down. And everybody, I was out watching this game, and everybody's like, take the points. And the Browns go for it, and they get I believe it was a pass interference call or holding or something to where, and yeah. I yell out, what a great decision that was to go for it on fourth down. Everybody starts laughing.
Yeah.
That decision to go for it on fourth down and getting that penalty was really the turning point of the game, because they get the 6 points, and then there's the penalty on the extra point. They end up getting the 2, and then they get the stop, and they end up getting the field goal, and they end up, whereas if they don't make that fourth down, who knows if they get any of those points, and they end up scoring 11 points there. And it just seemed like a different game from then on. And I know there were big plays in the second half. There was Greedy's pick and everything else. And, and the defensive line played great and put pressure, on Cousins throughout the game. But that little swing right there is really, it's obvious. It's in the, where they got all their points, but, that's kind of what decided the game right there. And it was pretty much that one penalty probably.
Yeah, that was kind of critical. I also thought the play by Kareem Hunt on 3rd and 20 was pretty big, where I think he ran to the right side for like 30 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, 3rd and 20, and you're looking at punting, and he ends up getting the first down on that run, and they end up kicking the field goal. And those proved to be the points that were the difference in the game.
Yeah. It was a huge play.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest offensive play of the game. There were some issues with officiating, I thought, on both sides. It's never perfect.
I thought the officiating was horrible. I thought it was horrible.
I saw some things from Minnesota, write-up articles from Minnesota papers where they were complaining about the officiating too, which, if both teams were complaining about the officiating, it means one of two things. It means the officials really, really stunk and were terrible at their job, or that, they kind of screwed both teams, and that's kind of how it should be.
I guess you can ask Joey Bosa, what he thought about the officiating.
Right.
He wasn't happy. I mean, Odell got tackled on that one play, and they didn't call pass interference on it. I think that's where it started for me, when he got tackled and they didn't call pass interference. But I mean, there were other calls that didn't go the Browns' way. But the Vikings thought that there was pass interference against Thielen on the last play of the game too, which I never even saw anything about that. But
no.
I mean, if your hopes for winning the game are hoping to get that pass interference call on the on the Hail Mary at the end with no time left, then I don't feel real sorry for you. So
no,
you got to do it before that. So
I still don't understand why they didn't call intentional grounding on the Vikings quarterback when we had him in the grasp, basically sacking him. And he threw that little dunk right into the middle of the field to nobody.
It should have been grounding.
Yeah, I mean, that's intentional grounding.
Yeah, I was screaming about that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it went both ways, but I mean, I'm not impartial, guys, so I felt like the Browns got the short end of the stick on the officiating, but I think they did early. Maybe the Vikings got the worst part of it later. I don't know, but I thought the officials missed a lot of stuff in that game.
Well, that pass interference call, near the end, that should have been who was it to pick the ball off?
Greedy.
Greedy. Yeah, that should have been his second interception, his first of the day, and his second overall. That was unbelievable. So
yeah.
What was funny about that was I was in the process of texting to you, Rod, that this would be a good time for a pick. I hit send, and Cousins lets the ball go. And Greedy comes down with it. I'm like, wow.
On his pick, yeah.
Wish I'd have said that sooner.
Yeah, call your shots a little earlier, Jeff.
I mean, Cousins he hadn't been intercepted in 200 attempts or something. I don't.
Oh yeah, it was over 200 attempts.
Yeah. So that was kind of big too. Even though we didn't turn it into points, that was kind of a big deal as well.
Yeah, and I know Cousins has a longer track record, but Cousins was 20 of 38 for 203, one touchdown and one pick. Not very good numbers either. Which we're going to credit the Browns defense. I'm sure that people in Minnesota are probably complaining about Cousins. That he didn't play good, right? Or you think not? Maybe you think they're giving the Browns defense credit?
Yeah. The Browns defense is a little better than the Vikings defense, but
well, sure, yeah.
No, your point is taken.
Yeah, and the Browns defense. Yeah, you know what? Let me just go forward here because I looked up where the Browns defense ranks and a few things here. Well, actually, just the Browns. The Browns are defense is second in yards allowed per game, fourth in points per game, and they're number 3 in rushing yards per game and number 3 in passing yards per game. It's pretty impressive.
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw a post that they were second. They're now, after 4 weeks, ranked second overall, which is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. And on the offensive side, where everybody's very worried after this last game, the offense, Browns are 12th in points per game. Obviously, they are number one in rushing yards per game. They're 26 in passing yards per game, and they're number 12 in yards per game.
Yeah, they haven't played a complete offensive game yet. It's coming. I think they're going to be okay, but yeah, they haven't put it all together yet.
Yeah, but I think with I think with what we've seen, I think you have to be pretty happy with the fact that if the offense hasn't picked it up, the defense has, and they've done a pretty good job. Obviously, the running game was pretty key, even though it's not like Chubb and Hunt scored a ton of touchdowns or anything, but Nick Chubb got 100 yards. That's the first time he's hit 100 this season, and Kareem Hunt was Kareem Hunt again. Kind of good to see Higgins out there making 4 catches, because the Browns really needed somebody to step up a little bit. So that was kind of cool.
None of those were really contested, by the way.
He was pretty well wide open every time, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. And OBJ only had 2 catches. I don't know how many targets he had. I didn't look at that, but 2 catches. I want to go to you guys on this, because this was pretty funny that Myles Garrett goes sleeveless.
Yeah, I heard that today.
And he gets notified that he's had a random drug test. I guess probably happened yesterday, I guess.
Right.
Obviously he's not concerned about it. But yeah, I guess when you look like that, it's certainly not a random test. But
well, you know what, if they watched the draft here in Cleveland, that tailored suit that he was wearing looked like it was about to burst. He was probably about 10 pounds over its maximum air pressure.
Yeah, he looks gigantic.
I mean, the guy is just swollen, and it's not anything new, but he must have had a particularly good off season in the weight room.
Yeah,
I think he had probably the best off season program probably of his career. I mean, if you see the way that he's manhandling offensive linemen on a regular basis, it's unbelievable.
Right, and Minnesota made the mistake of trying to block him with a tight end, which I can't see anybody else in the league doing that again this year. Right. But
I mean, you gotta. You got to chip him or something, right? I mean, you got to try, which should free up, all 4 of our, all of our defensive linemen are playing at a really high level right now.
Well, they're penetrating extremely well. What I'm seeing though is there are times where they're losing contain, and depending on who the quarterback is, giving them lanes to escape. And I think that's just a matter of these guys playing together and figuring out how to avoid that. I think they did a particularly good job against Justin Fields, and you saw a lot more of that against Cousins. So if they can continue that, they're going to put up some crazy numbers, pressures and sack wise this year, because those guys are all capable of knocking people off their feet.
Right.
Yeah, the Browns are. I saw different stats, a couple different places. So I think they're either tied for first or second in sacks per game on a team basis with their 14 sacks. So I'm not sure if the Bears have one more than them or not. I saw 2 different numbers. You look at different sites, you get different results. So, anyways, they're right up there. And Myles has 6 of those. So hopefully he can keep it going, and hopefully get guys like Tack, who had a sack on Sunday, and Clowney, who had he had several pressures. these guys just keep playing well, and it's going to continue to help the rest of the defense. So definitely a great day for the defense.
Yep, 2 weeks in a row. So I'm hoping they can bring that heat, against Herbert.
You got to believe that it's not an anomaly that they did it against the Bears. Now, to do it against a good offense like the Vikings, they should be able to do that against everybody.
Yeah. So here's what we have. The Browns have done this 2 weeks in a row, like you guys said. Bears and then Vikings. Last week, we were talking, a little bit of concern about playing the Vikings and how good their offense was. Browns go in there and Vikings score 7 points. Now the Browns are going to LA to play the Chargers. And I think people are going to feel a lot the same way. And, I just don't know. I mean, people. I watched the game last night. I don't know if you guys did or not. Chargers, Raiders, and the Raiders defense is not the Browns defense, but the Chargers look pretty good. Of course, that was a low-scoring game for the first. I think end of the second quarter. Right. It was 7-0 or something like that. They were just trading punts out there. Yeah. Neither one of them could get anything going. So I'm watching this. I'm thinking we're supposed to be scared of playing these guys, they can't do much, Browns defense is going to be better than the Raiders, right? So, but then the Chargers got it going. So now people are going to be concerned that, Chargers got this great offense and the Browns, Baker, we got a problem with Baker, it's going to be a tough game. We're really scared of these guys. There's no reason to think that this will be an easy game. I look at this game a lot like the Vikings, but the the Chargers. I just went through and looked at their the scores of their games, and they beat Washington 20-16. They lost to the Cowboys 20-17. They had the impressive win over the Chiefs, but Chiefs have lost a few games now, 30-24. And then they won last night 28-14, over the Raiders. So the average score of a Chiefs game is 24-19. The average score for a Browns game is 25-17. Just to give you guys numbers. I know we played different teams, but really not that much different. Both played the Chiefs, and the other teams are debatable, of how you see them. But I guess what I'm getting to is, do you guys really see the Chargers as that much different from playing the Vikings? Good offense. The defense is probably going to get after Baker a little bit more up front. They got Bosa and the boys up front are probably going to put more pressure on him. They're better, but I don't know how much better the Chargers defense is overall than the Vikings. It's better, but is it that much better? And is their offense really, as good or better than the Vikings? I mean, Herbert's numbers, he's got 9 touchdowns, 3 picks. That's not as good as 8-0 coming in. His QBR is not as good as what Cousins was coming into the game. So, tell you what, Dan, I'll let you take that first. How do you see this Chargers game compared to going into the Vikings game?
Well, I wasn't that worried about the Vikings. I'm not really scared of any team in the NFL right now. So I don't go into the Browns games like I used to, where, I was, sweating through the entire thing, wondering how we're going to lose it. Now I'm looking at, who is going to make the play to win it. And I think that's a great difference now. But when you compare the Vikings to the Chargers, Herbert, I think, is a little more of a wild card, because we've watched Cousins for a really long time. And I think we kind of know, I think we knew who Cousins was, and we kind of proved it. Herbert's a little bit different. Herbert, I think, has a little bit more of an ability to make plays when there aren't plays there to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And I also worry a little bit about the defensive pressure that the Chargers are going to be able to get on us, particularly off Baker's left side with, the issues that we're having at left tackle.
Yeah.
So I think the Browns running game is going to be a huge thing in this game. It's going to be important that we run the ball a lot, I think, to control the clock, keep Herbert off the field. But I think our defense is going to show San Diego are they LA now?
They're LA, yeah.
LA, yeah.
Yeah.
Show
I call
LA.
them San Diego quite often.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Last time I did a podcast, they were San Diego. So to show LA something that they haven't seen, yet, and that's a dominating defensive force. And I think the Browns are going to be fine. I worry a little bit about West Coast games because historically, even going back to the 80s, the Browns never play well when they go out on the West Coast, and they always seem to have issues during 4:00 games. And I don't know why that is, but I'm more worried about where we're playing and the time we're playing than I am about who we're playing. So.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that at all.
Yeah. True.
So how do you see it, Jeff? How do you see the difference between the teams and, kind of, what the Browns are facing?
Same way. It's traveling to the West Coast. It's playing a late day game. If I was starting an NFL franchise tomorrow and you said I could take any young quarterback as my cornerstone, I think I'm taking Justin Herbert over Patrick Mahomes. It's probably close, real close, but I think Justin Herbert's going to be a great NFL quarterback for a long time. And you saw last night, some glimpses of that. He's just such a smart guy. I think, if we can get some pressure on him, we can hold them to those 20-ish points that you were talking about. That gives us a chance to win. But man, our offense has got to execute against a really, really strong defensive line and a team that's going to bring tons of pressure on Baker. So this is probably one of the 4 or 5 toughest games on our schedule this year. Might even be one of the top 3 toughest games on our schedule this year. We've got the Packers on Christmas Day in Green Bay, which is going to be tough. We played Kansas City on opening day, which nobody really knew what was going to happen.
Right.
Going out to the West Coast early in the season with some things still kind of up in the air with the offense and Baker coming off a really tough game. Man, this one's going to be hard. If we can put it together for this one, and figure out the Cardinals next week, then we're in great shape to put together a long run of wins. But this one's going to be a tough one.
No, I agree with you. It will be. I think the thing to look to is just how last night's game started, and the fact that the Raiders defense was able to kind of hold these guys in check for a while, and I think the Browns will learn some things from that. And the way the Chargers run their offense is kind of unique. I don't talk a lot of fantasy on the show, but I have Austin Eckler on a few of my fantasy teams, guys, and I'm watching the game last night, and I want him to score some points for me so I can win, some matches that I'm in, okay? And they're rotating him out after every play with 2 other running backs. I'm like, what are they doing? So Eckler runs for 8 yards, and then they bring in, and I don't know, remember they have I think their second guy's name is Jackson, then they got Roundtree. And then they bring in Jackson, they hand it to him, and he gets nothing. Then they bring in Roundtree, he gets nothing. Then they bring in Eckler again, and he gets 8 yards, and then they take him back out. I'm like, what are you guys doing? It's just, and Eckler ended up with a nice stat line and everything, but it's very confusing for me to watch why you rotate guys that much and that often when one guy is so much, so clearly better than the other guys. Maybe they're just trying to control the snaps that Eckler's getting so he doesn't get worn down because he's not, he's not a really big guy, but he's actually a pretty small guy, but maybe that's the reasoning. So, and there again, I'm not an NFL coach, so it's not like I know better than their guy who won a game convincingly last night, but it just seemed kind of unusual. And the other thing is they've got the two really big wide receivers,
right?
Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. That's going to be interesting to see how the Browns, how they can do against those guys, because like you said, Herbert's a good young player.
It's interesting to me that the Browns added a guy to the practice squad this week who's like 6'5", wide receiver. I don't have his name on tip of my tongue, but it makes you wonder, did they bring that guy in, just to kind of scout for these big wideouts that the Chargers have? Because our guys, our corners are going to be challenged to meet up, with those big guys.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I took away from the game last night was that's going to be tough.
No, I agree with you. They're gonna need some help on these big dudes, definitely. So and then like you said, Joey Bosa and that defensive front it's gonna be a challenge. With the way the offensive line has played. And again, it's not been horrible, but Jed and whoever else has been out there, they've struggled a little bit so far. So yeah, it could be a challenging game. And I had the same thoughts on my mind about the West Coast. I really don't like these West Coast trips because they usually don't turn out well. So if the Browns can get a win here, I'll be excited. Just like the Minnesota one. Really doesn't matter what the score is. Take it any way you can get it. The interesting thing here is, again, let me look at what the game last week was. The over/under. I don't know if I had 53. Well, it's down
last
to
week.
Yeah, 49.5.
Right.
And the Browns are favored in this one by a half point or a point, depending on where you look, which is interesting. I mean, on the road.
I looked today. I think that changed after last night's game. I think the Browns are now getting a half a point.
Okay.
Depending on where you look. Okay. But I think the Browns opened up as a favorite, and after last night's game against the Raiders, I think that swung over to the Chargers.
Yeah, I would think home field advantage that the Chargers would be a slight favorite in this game. Both teams are 3-1. I mean, yeah, I was kind of surprised when what I was looking at had the Browns as a favorite.
Yep.
So, what else do you guys think? And Jeff, I want to kind of get more thoughts from you as far as how you think this game's going to go. I mean, you think the Browns are obviously going to try to run the crap out of the ball in this game.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to try to, I really didn't give a lot of my thoughts on Baker because I had enough battles on Twitter over the last 2 days over Baker's shoulder and stuff, and people telling me I was making excuses for him. And, I'm not making excuses. I've dislocated my left shoulder like 5 times or, had it come out and go back in like 5 times. Okay. I know what that injury is, even if his isn't exactly what mine is. It hurts. Okay. It hurts. It takes a while to heal up. It takes a while before you can lift your arm above your head, and you got to do a lot of rehab. And it just doesn't feel good for quite a while. And it depends on the extent, to what Baker's injury is, how much it really hurts him. And people are going to say, well, he said it was fine in the press conference. Well, that's Baker. Of course he's going to say his shoulder's not bothering him. Baker doesn't want excuses. Baker's a leader. He's going to he doesn't want to come out of the game, first of all, no matter what. So he's not going to say, oh, I'm hurt, and then say, oh, well, we better get you out of there. Baker's going to play. He's not going to say how much pain he's in. He's not going to say whether it's affecting his throwing motion or not. But I feel like it's probably affecting his throwing motion because he hasn't thrown the ball well since it happened. Okay. I just think it's affecting his turn. And, try just holding your left arm down at your side, and throwing something, without turning. It just doesn't work quite as well. And when you're not able to do a natural turn like that, it's going to mess you up a little bit. So I'm not making excuses for him. I think he's affected by it. That's it. So do you think the Browns will try a little bit harder to maybe game plan around that and go to, I don't know. I think to me, if he's not accurate and not able to throw well, you try to throw more short passes versus, he can throw the ball. He just doesn't know where it's going when he throws it down the field because he can't throw it with his normal motion,
Yeah.
And you know what? And maybe another week, maybe he'll be more accurate anyways. I don't know. But do you think that they would look at game planning around that?
For sure. And I also think that the Chargers defense will game plan for that. That was, the thing that you saw with Minnesota is, they knew we were going to run the ball. So they were packing the box. And, because Baker couldn't complete anything down the field, they were basically saying, okay, we're going to stop the run and you're going to have to beat us with Baker's arm. And, fortunately, our defense was better than their defense at doing that because Baker couldn't beat them with his arm. So that's what makes me a little nervous about going and playing San Diego. Now I did it. Los Angeles.
I've been doing it for 3 years or whatever, however long they've been in LA.
But that's what really makes me nervous is that, they know we're coming in running the ball. And we're going to face that same kind of defensive pressure. And unless we can do something to keep them honest, okay, Chubb and Huddle, they'll get the job done. Don't get me wrong. But you've got to have something to play off of that with. And, whether it's, dumps out of the backfield or tight end routes or whatever it is, we've got to have something to counter that. And it's not going to be, throwing it down the field to Odell or anybody else, on those, those sideline routes just weren't there against Minnesota. The seam was there with Higgins, and you're going to get that from time to time when they drop back in zone. But as far as being able to, keep them honest in man coverage, I just don't think Baker can thread the needle right now. So that's it. The other team knows that as well as we do. So we've got a game plan for it. We've got to know that they're going to game plan for it, and then we got to figure out how to counter that. So maybe it's Demetric Felton as our slot guy, doing some creative things with him, to do that. And I still think I go back to our offensive line. They've got to figure out how to maintain that pocket integrity so that Baker can feel comfortable. If that doesn't happen, our offense is really going to struggle no matter how we game plan.
Yeah. Thoughts you'd like to add, Dan?
I think we're going to struggle a little bit off that left side, like I said earlier. That's the thing that concerns me the most is our left tackle situation right now, and especially versus this defense, this defense and the pressure that they're getting off that left side. I've been watching, I watched a little bit of that Raiders game, and the pressure off that left side, I was watching that specifically because I knew what our deficit was just ridiculous. And I'm a little worried about that. But I do think that they're going to utilize a short passing game as an extension of our running game. And I think they're going to rely on the running game to basically control the ball. And I see a lot of delayed screens and maybe even a lot of draw plays to counter some of that pressure. So that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, hope so.
Yeah.
Is there any chance the Browns finally go to the wishbone in this game?
I don't
Even
know.
if just for a short period of time, just one drive.
I think we're more likely to see OBJ throw a pass.
Yeah.
That could happen too.
Yeah.
OBJ to Schwartz or something like that, or DPJ.
Yeah.
OBJ to DPJ would be good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That'd be great. All right, guys. Let's throw out some predictions for Sunday's game against the. I'm just going to call them the Chargers.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So let's see. Sorry, guys. I like to write mine down before anybody else gives theirs, so that I'm not. Don't feel like I'm copying off anybody. But you know what? I won't do it. I got our names written down. Jeff, how do you see this game playing out? What kind of score do you see?
Well, this is going to be disappointing for some people, but I'm going to take the under this week. I'm finally a believer in our defense, and we are just struggling offensively right now. So I think this is going to be a field position game that's going to come down to a field goal. I'm going to be a homer this week, and I'm going to pick the Browns 23-20. But I'm about 10% confident in that.
Oh yeah. I understand. Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. So we said that last week. So you never know. Dan, we'll let you go next.
I'm taking the way under as well. I'm predicting Browns 13-10 on a last-second Chase McLaughlin field goal from like 50 yards.
Yeah, so if you have any heart issues, you might not want to watch this one.
That's right.
I'm going to go kind of in that same vein, Dan. I'm going to go Browns 17, Chargers 14. And I'm not going to call for the last second field goal, but I think the Browns are going to win it by 3. And again, I'm going way under because pretty much what Jeff was saying. I just, I believe in the Browns defense. I believe Browns defense will hold them down, and I don't see the Browns offense putting up a ton of points either. So right. I don't think this game will get close to 49.5. So, no. So it'll probably end up like 39-35.
Right. Exactly.
Because we're so good at predicting this stuff.
Yeah. Well, it really comes down to how well Baker can play. I think if he can figure it out and get healthy enough to be able to throw the ball down the field accurately, then it's going to be a completely different game than if he can't. Like we were saying before, you just have to game plan around that. And based on what we've seen, I have a hard time expecting that that's going to happen.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of short ball control throws, primarily to not give the Chargers defense time to get there.
Right.
So, I don't see a lot of long down the field attempts just because of the time it takes to get people downfield and the pressure that they're going to get on Baker. So I think it's going to be a lot of short, tiny stuff and ball control. It's all going to be all about ball control and defense.
Well, against the Vikings, we had a 15-play drive and an 18-play drive. We could hopefully we'll see a lot more of that against the Chargers.
That would be great. Right. Yeah. That's what they need. Definitely.
Yep.
definitely should be a good one, guys.
Yep.
So Jeff, do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, I'll just repeat what I said earlier, that this one's going to be tough. And, if we don't get it done this week, I still feel really good about us putting together a string of wins when we get into the little bit softer part of our schedule. So you can't win every single game. Let's see how well our defense can carry us this week and for the third week in a row, and hopefully our offense can show up and give the defense a little bit of help this week. That they certainly need it.
Yeah, definitely. And Dan,
Yep.
what would you like to leave us with this evening?
Well, hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. And if you ever need, another artist to come on talk about football, just let me know.
That sounds good. Absolutely, yeah. Give Dan a follow at GDanArtist, and be sure to wish him a happy birthday too, guys.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
This has been the Browns Blitz, and we will catch you next time.